What's good, YouTube? It's your boy K Neutron. We back at it again with another tough video. Today, we are going to be reacting to the abilities of Warframe by Nova Umbro. He makes some of the toughest Warframe videos. Shouts out to him. Hopefully, I get to make some content with him one day. But you already know that's a goal for the future. You know what I mean? We gotta still continue to drop this consistent Warframe content. You know what I mean? Just content in general. Let's get it, man. Let's get to reacting. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It's your boy K Neutron. Let's react.
Excalibur's exalted blade allows him to draw a sword of pure light. During the animation, he charges face first against the mobs of enemies. As you tap that gracious E key, commanding your character to start launching out curved waves that pierce through the platoons of Grineer Lancers and
that exalted blade ultimate, so fire. So fire. The fact that you could just clear through waves with that, like, just one ability, man.
Only to see the waves rupture internal organs as body parts are tossed all over the place with blood tainting the floor.
And no bat, not even gonna lie to you, the dismemberment of like limbs and body parts in Warframe was way ahead of its time. You have games like Rise of Ronin trying to incorporate that today, and so many people are looking at it like, whoa, man, Warframe did that years ago.
And when all is done, the blade is sheathed once more, light dispersing into the air until it has become nothing once again.
The amount of detail that they put into Exalted Blade and the abilities in general for most Warframes is fire. Keyword, most.
And then there is Ash, who tosses a shuriken.
Yeah.
Warframe ability.
The difference between abilities visually and like in-game damage wise is hilariously like crazy. It's wild. It's wild.
These are what make this game Warframe. Much like other fantasy action games, powers, spells, and abilities are what make a significant bulk of the gameplay.
True.
And Warframe is no different. These fantastical space ninjas are full of them. Well, 4 of them, in fact.
So like it's so cool how most abilities definitely give off the personality of each Warframe, and you could definitely tell which Warframe has which ability and like who does what. Like Excalibur, I mean, it's already in the name, but like when they started developing like more characters, like Dante right now, man, fire.
And sometimes you can even switch them around with this weird zombified chair. These powers and abilities can vary, going from a rather mild cast like boosting your running speed to summoning a portal from the literal sun to scorch your enemy.
Bro, this ability right here, whoever came up with this ability, they were cooking. And when I mean they were cooking, I'm talking about they had the seasoning, they had the meat sauteed, everything, bro. Like, the simple fact that dude can literally open up a portal to the sun and bring out his energy is so fire. That gives me like comic book superhero like, you know what I'm saying? It's just so fire how they come up with some Warframe abilities.
To a crisp. The point is, there's so much variety and an open-ended approach as to how characters are being designed. Most of the cast is diverse enough to the point where each frame can be distinguished with key attributes and features.
Yep.
The most common being appearance, but the powers are what comes into play,
yep,
and how they're presented and function within the game's sandbox.
Thanks.
And because of how many abilities there actually are, a common question is always bound to be asked. Which ones are good and which ones are bad?
And see, that question in it of itself is kind of hard to answer, because you really have to determine what do you think of as good or a bad ability. Are we talking just damage wise? Are we talking about like visually? Are we even talking about status effects? Because some abilities put on some fire status effects, no bad.
However, the question is rather difficult to answer, as there are so many factors that have to be considered to make an ability good or bad.
Fire.
It's such an open-ended discussion that there really isn't a right answer. And at the end of the day, Warframe has no single playstyle.
Not gonna lie to you, the simple gameplay of Warframe is just so
But there really
smooth.
isn't a right answer. And at the end of the day, Warframe has no single playstyle. And what is good is dependent on what you consider to be important in the game. Some may cling on to an easier approach, Reservoir, Roar, and Nourish are commonly considered good abilities.
True.
These powers offer high stat boosts, have good base contribution, and offer modding flexibility. But visually, they are quite tame in comparison to other flashier spells like Discharge, Aegistorm,
True.
and Ravenous, which have...
But those abilities may be stronger and have better status effects. And that's what I'm talking about between the differences of what do you determine a good or a bad ability. I don't know. I got to see how he explains which ones to pick.
way more vibrance and personality, giving the characters who own them more life and depth. However, these signature powers lack the stat boost and flexible advantage the former presents. Now, this isn't to say flashier spells are generally bad. I mean, there are a lot of very cool visual powers that also offer...
That ability right there by Mesa Prime is so fire. Not Mesa Prime, but like Mesa in general. Where he just stand there. It give you John Wick vibes. He eliminated them niggas. Like, it's crazy.
For high stats. Miasma allows Saren to spread her illness in a super wide radius, but also has great visuals as you get a clear indicator of Saren dumping enemies with toxins and spores. The sound effects gives you that eerie feeling of when all the spores go off, exploding, and the enemy count falls to 0 in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, definitely true. It's so crazy because like you'll be looking at the map, looking at all the enemies, the next thing you know they all gone, they just disappear. That's really how Warframe works sometimes. Sometimes you gonna eliminate a whole army of enemies. And honestly, here goes a really good question. When you kill these waves and waves of enemies, they just keep coming, bro. Like no diddy. But the simple fact that, like, within lore, how that works is that the Grineer are being cloned, but, like, after each clone, they're getting, like, more and more savage. Like, just think of that. And then the Infested, then the Corpus. Man, I really like how Warframe kind of gave an aspect in their lore on why, you know what I'm saying, each enemy type really does come in waves. With the Grineer, it's because they're clones. With the Corpus, you could really think about it because they have such like technological advancement. They could keep them robots going. They could keep them soldiers going. And with the Infested, I mean, that's literally a virus. When you look at Deimos, man, and I love how damn near I just not connected it. It's crazy how each open world is connected to each. You know what I'm saying? Each enemy type. For the Corpus, you think of Fortuna. When you think of Grineer, you think of Cetus. When you think of Infested, you think of Deimos. Or Deimos. However you want to pronounce it.
The point is, there's a huge variety of powers, and they all do different things. And this also isn't to say there isn't any objective reasoning when trying to categorize and understand powers. Some powers are flat out good regardless, but there's more nuance to each spell when broken down. I think the easiest way is to order them into 3 main categories, and within those categories exist sub-rules to further organize and divide into.
Okay.
The first is the visuals and theme. This one's pretty...
See, and this is what I wanted to see him explain. It's like, okay, let me see him explain the rest.
The obvious and is the most subjective aspect. Second are the synergies within the rest of the kit and the game's sandbox. This can also include support capabilities and effectiveness like getting multiple things done within a single cast.
True.
But this can also be broken down into 4 more rules revolving around what the abilities can do directly, such as damage from the abilities themselves,
there goes
damage negation or prevention,
also
damage boosting, and crowd control. And finally, C, the stats and scalability of said powers. How far can this power or kit scale into higher level missions, and how
it's an ad for AFK Journey? Nobody's playing this.
Effective are the mods for said powers. However, to simply categorize each ability into one of the 3 I've mentioned isn't true, as a spell or a combination of spells can work together and perform a variety of...
That skin is so fire. That skin is so fire. I cannot wait to like just keep upgrading the Warframe till my skins get to this level. I understand that this is Excalibur Umbral, but like that skin is fire.
Tasks. This is merely one way of looking at it. As the broader discussion is so open-ended, there really isn't a single answer. But
see, and Warframe is a game that really allows you to do this. Like, it really allows you to run around while you're invisible and just wipe out waves of enemies with your gun that's probably silenced depending on your ability and what warframe you run it with. But he's running with the gauze, and as you can see in the top right, he's running with a lot of effects on his weapons right now. That's wild.
Personally believe this to be an easier angle. Let's take a look at Exhibit A, the visuals and effects. Volt's entire theme and design is based on electricity.
True.
He's one of the few elemental casters in the game.
In game, it's either Volt or Gauss, which you can determine to be the Flash. I mean, it's crazy how both of their abilities. It's so wild.
And one of the two electric themed characters, the other being Gyre. Volt's abilities are very simple and are all directly related to the electric element.
And they are
His
so
one
cool.
allows him to toss out a thunder projectile, shocking enemies in sight. His 2 allows him to use electricity to charge up his sprint speed. His 3 literally lets him summon an electric shield, and his 4 is an
That's damn near impenetrable as long as the enemy is outside of it. Like, it's kind of wild how his shield works. And then, don't even get me started about when they gave him the ability to pick up his shield and run around with it. And you can cast your speed ability. So you damn near running around with the invincible shield right in front of you while you can still shoot at enemy, shoot through the shield. And then don't even get me started about the status effect that when you shoot through the shield, each bullet is being electrified towards the enemy. Fire.
electric explosion. I mean, there's electricity in every sentence of this character, and the ability's visual presentation showcases this almost perfectly.
True.
If someone who's never played Warframe took a first
True.
glance at
Like,
Volt,
look-
they can easily
That's
identify
so
him as a
fire. Look at
shock-themed
that, bro.
Warframe. And not only that, his name is literally
Volt.
His ultimate being the most flashy in terms of effects and animations, as you
Agreed.
can get a super clear visual of how the electric currents expand in a wide radius, shocking everything in sight and creating chain Tesla coils. It's a pretty sweet ability and definitely one of the cooler ones per.
Honestly, just because I was just thinking of this, I honestly want to start doing anime builds inside Warframe. Please let me know down in the comments if you want to start seeing anime builds. Because I already have a build for Volt that I definitely want to do. It's either between Killua and Kashimo from Jujutsu Kaisen. And I'm really starting to think I want to do Killua just because Killua has God speed and it increases his speed to like immense measures. And we all know Kashimo did get his spoiler warning, but he did get his butt smacked by Sukuna in the manga. So, but I digress.
Presented. But in other cases, it doesn't need to be consistently flashy. Volt is a rather simple example. Other frames may only require one ability to visually flaunt their theme and design. Rhino's Iron Skin is so basic, but it gets the message across. As soon as Rhino hardens his body, he becomes untouchable. And it also helps that Rhino is just generally bold.
Rhino is so tough of a frame. Like, just the build that they've come up with for Rhino and his design was chef's kiss, because that design is fire and that skin is so cold.
Key in terms of his design. Now, apart from visuals, there's also the impact of the power. Even though things may look flashy and vibrant on the screen, if the feeling of impact isn't there, it may
True.
not have a strong affection on the player. And while this may be more of a subjective aspect of the greater discussion, it's still an important part to consider. Soul Punch feels rather flimsy despite its description. I mean, Necros literally punches an enemy, and upon landing a finishing blow, you will punch their soul out of their body and add them to your army.
The description does give off a fire, like you know what I'm saying? That is tough. Not gonna lie, gotta do a Sun Jinwoo build with Necros. For sure. For sure.
I mean, that sounds incredibly cool, but the in-game animation and effects just feels really awkward. And instead, the enemy just flails around rather than being hit with a hard punch. It's more like a kinetic wave, which isn't bad, but it isn't really fitting.
See, and that's why we gotta do a Sun Jinwoo build. Because if we change the color to purple or we change it to blue, you know what I'm saying? Every time he does that, that's a rise. Come on now, you keep your energy up, man. You have an endless army. Oh, I'm getting ideas. That would be fire.
For an ability called Soul Punch. But on the flip side, you can really feel the impact and weight of Mesa's Peacemakers. It helps that the sound effects is superb, giving your shots a very crisp and punchy sound.
True,
and alongside her gun dancing, the entire ability is
that
a
is
visual
so fire. And it's like he's literally shooting enemies through walls, through like from yards away, miles away, bro. This is crazy. Like, look at how they connect mid-air.
Next, there is Exhibit B, ability synergies in Warframe kits and how they play in the game's sandbox. Harrow is a very popular Warframe for the sole reason of pushing the synergies and Warframe abilities.
That's a tough skin.
His powers all work perfectly together like an endless cycle, and because of that, Harrow has innate value in being self-sufficient and rewarding when being active in his gameplay. His powers on their own may not seem all that interesting and are rather one-dimensional, but once you put them together, Harrow is a sweet piece of candy. Cycling is one to gain overshields, then sacrificing them to bolster his and allies' weapons. Then, in order to gain the lost energy, channel Thurible and start pinpointing Grineer heads.
What?
Thanks to his Condemn, it's even
See, and the simple fact that DE goes through so much like work to make sure that abilities synergize with each other on certain warframes. Round of applause for them. For sure.
easier landing headshots. Then come full circle with his ultimate, which rewards headshot play and energy generation. All of the abilities in Harrow's kit serve a role in creating the endless gameplay loop he offers. Now, following Harrow, there is the importance of utilizing synergy and effectiveness within the game's sandbox. It's important to know that some powers are excellent because they can perform a variety of tasks.
True.
These tasks, or rather rules, can be divided into 4 sections, and sometimes powers can perform more than one, thus making them more effective and valuable within
True.
the game's meta. These sections include
Oh, and Nova, her abilities are tough.
direct damage from powers themselves, which is stuff like Serene Storm, Peacemaker, and Bladestorm. Then there is damage negation or prevention from powers. This includes Iron Skin, Mesmer Skin, and Nullstar, and to some extent the shield gating mechanic. Third is damage boosting and is widely considered the most popular rule. These are abilities like Roar, Eclipse, and Zada's Whisper. And finally, crowd control, abilities like Avalanche, Bastille, and Molecular Prime. Now these are just a few of the many examples, but when broken down like this on a more direct level, it becomes easier to understand.
True.
However, as mentioned earlier, sometimes a power can perform well in a multitude of categories.
But like, I really think that each ability on each Warframe, they definitely do have some contribution to gameplay. I just think that depending on which Warframe it is, their contribution may be as far as damage wise, shielding, buffing, crowd control. I mean, not gonna lie, visually they're fire. And the simple fact that most Warframes abilities do synergize with each other, or even if they don't synergize with each other, they can cause the Warframe to be very versatile. Vault, like for example, he has a shield, he can increase his speed, he can increase his combat speed. You know what I mean? He has the wide range AoE, and he also has a direct attack that does damage. I mean, that's each 4 ability, but like all of them damn near do one thing on their own. So it's so tough. It's so tough.
And thus are more valued and considered to be better than the rest. Molecular Prime offers great crowd control in a very wide radius, it has high duration and good base stats, but it also offers good damage boost to Nova and allies who target primed enemies as they have reduced defenses.
True.
And not only that, the power has some synergy within Nova's kit as primed enemies take more damage from antimatter bomb, and you have great Nullstar sustainability with molecular fission. The power also offers great team play as a lot of DPS Warframes straight up benefit from having primed enemies.
And that's another thing, is the abilities in team play, especially if you know how to correlate your team well with the people that you're playing with. Oh man, you wiping waves easily. Would I recommend going with the same Warframe? No, but if you want to just have fun, do it. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to run a wave of missions with just a team of 4 vaults, do it for sure. Run that speed boost. Oh man, it'll get hectic. And the thing about Warframe, it lets you do that.
Now, putting synergies aside, sometimes there are powers that exist to play into the rest of the kit, but not necessarily in a direct synergistic way like Harrow or Nidus. They simply add to the character's gameplay in a static approach. Defy just gives Wukong and his clone more armor. It's just an extra boost to his survivability. Excalibur's Radial Blind simply allows him to stun enemies within radius. These powers serve to add on to the gameplay in a more traditional and static approach, but even then, there is still some semblance of synergy. I also want to briefly mention momentum-based abilities, as these powers also serve a purpose.
When we talk about the movement in Warframe, no game, honestly, to this day, has reached a level of smooth movement that Warframe gives their players. Honestly, I mean, you can damn near do everything with the movement in Warframe, even fly. I mean, and you don't even need to have a flying ability.
While these types of powers exist within many frames, they don't necessarily fall under the categories I've presented, but there are obvious exceptions like Zephyr gaining critical chance when airborne, or Gauss using Mach Crash.
True.
Instead, movement abilities directly tie themselves into the core gameplay loop, as having spells like Mach Rush will bolster your bullet jump combos and allow you to traverse various tile sets much faster. These types of abilities will always be good because, well, movement is Warframe, and if you want to go faster, you certainly can. And it is also rewarding and fun. And finally, we have Exhibit C. Abilities that have extremely strong stats and high scalability. Reservoir is great not only because it is effective at one or more roles, but also has a lot of value due to its high scalability with mods and working flawlessly within the game's sandbox.
True.
You gain very high HP and movement speed, as well as having a shock aura which will stun enemies that are too close. It covers a multitude of roles for the cost of one ability, and in terms of—
No, he just chased him. Hold on.
You gain very high HP and movement speed, as well as having a shock aura which will stun enemies that are too close. It covers a multitude of roles for the cost of one ability. And in terms of modding for Reservoir, it's simple, as the pods themselves have a permanent duration, so you don't need to build for super high duration. Its range also won't matter as much, since as long as you enter the radius of the pod, you get the buff. And power strength doesn't need to be that high either, since it scales great with power anyways. Even a half-modded Reservoir is still extremely strong is what I'm trying to say, but a fully modded one will carry you even further. Now, these frames and powers aren't the sole representations of these three categories, rather just another example. For every flashy discharge, there's bound to be a synergistic kit like Harrow.
True.
And for every stat booster like Nurse, there's going to be a defensive pillage.
And that's what I'm saying. Warframe definitely gives you the chance to test out those different abilities that have certain effects on different Warframes. Because it wouldn't make any sense for them to make each Warframe balanced kind of like Volta is. I mean, if every Warframe has versatility, then, I mean, honestly, no Warframe is different. You know what I mean? Each Warframe is built differently, and their abilities synergize differently with each other. They give different effects, and that is something that DE definitely put their, like, they foot, and they did a little twist up in it. You know what I'm saying? Because, man, it is fire.
Even the game gives you freedom in how you can approach these characters, and allows you to bend the rules.
True.
Volt may be a very flashy and visual frame, but he can certainly offer scalability, damage, and support. Volt doesn't have to be a caster-focused damage frame. You can completely spec him into a full tank setup style, using his augment mods and arcanes.
And
because
shields,
of the many gameplay systems like arcanes, operator mode, weapons, and so on, the frames themselves feel more liberated. Even the worst amongst the roster still have some semblance of freedom and style, despite being outclassed. I mean,
and the simple fact that, like, you can mod and add arcanes and many, and I mean many different other, like, modifications to your Warframe, it makes almost everybody's different Warframes completely different from each other. Not only are the Warframes different in abilities, you know what I'm saying, but depending on what mod you put onto your Warframe, that makes it even more different than another player's Warframe. It's fire. It's so fire.
Even the wiki states it. Each Warframe is moreover highly reconfigurable, meaning players can tailor their choice of Warframe to fit a multitude of playstyles.
True.
While certain Warframes excel in a particular situation, none are limited to a singular role, and no role demands the use of a singular Warframe.
Is he punching?
Now, some abilities, despite your opinions on them, are just flat out powerful.
That's fire.
Some uber powerful. Nourish is a very good example of that. It's Grendel's main ability and Sub-Zoom. And in recent times, Nourish has risen the usage charts and has become one of the best abilities in the entire game because its buffs are so monumental. Nourish offers fantastic base contribution by just sub-zooming it to your frames.
that skin's
It will apply the viral element, which is incredible for increasing your DPS, as it allows you to boost your damage done to enemy health.
Not gonna lie, I love how they gave us a big boy in Warframe. Not most games give us big boys. I love how Warframe gave us a big boy.
And it also allows you to mod for heat and corrosive at the same time without altering the mod configuration. This on its own is extremely valuable, as Nourish has fantastic mod contribution and flexibility. Furthermore, due to the energy ore multiplier, Nourish can allow players to completely dump both power efficiency and energy mods on builds. And it helps that Nourish can cover a multitude of roles as mentioned before. It's a damage boosting ability that can also provide support and utility. It can get multiple things done within a single cast. Pillage is another ability that gets a lot of praise, being able to maintain invincibility while permanently removing the enemy's defenses in a very wide radius is always a blessing.
Why am I just now finding out that Hildren is actually a female Warframe? Cause that Warframe is thick.
Squishier frames can sleep for another night due to an easy method of refreshing the shield gauge, which is another important mechanic that is universally valued. And Pillage allows weaker frames to dump defense mods like Vitality and Redirection while armor stripping at the same time. And Zada's Whisper, albeit to a lesser extent, is in similar vein, offering great damage boost with his Bulla Attractor. These three powers are good examples of how to be a hyper-effective ability, regardless of creativity and visual prowess. Just working exceptionally well within the game's fundamentals and mechanics is all it really takes. Plus, these spells have great mod scaling due to higher base stats.
But I think depending on which mods you run on each spell, I mean, it's not only the mods that you run on your Warframe, it's also the mods that you run on your weapons. Because the mods that you run on your weapons can also synergize with your Warframe depending on which ability you have. Like, as far as I know, you can increase the reload speed on your Gauss, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But each ability on Warframes definitely have some form of connection to the character, their weapons, and even just, like you said, their movement.
It's a simple approach to patching up Warframe kits, but it's also a highly effective one, and one that has been ingrained into the meta for years. With every new Warframe release, there's bound to be a Pillage or Nourish of some kind. Maybe not as potent as those powers themselves, but definitely deriving from how they work.
Hydroid is crazy.
Now, sometimes a power isn't that.
The rain, that's so fire. That's so fire.
Lucky. It may be visually tame for many, and it may lack the stats, modding.
Love Mag. Mag is definitely in my top 5 for Warframes. I have to continue unlocking Warframes, and I'm definitely gonna start recording that journey for you guys. But so far, Mag is in my top 5 for sure.
Versatility, scalability, or synergy, which could lead it to becoming a useless power. Tempest Barrage may come to mind for many. Its animations and effects are pretty mild. It's supposed to be water torpedoes that come crashing down on a wide area, but in-game it just looks like a bunch of raindrops falling down. And enemies aren't really blasted away, rather they just fall over from a knockdown status. The ability also has pitiful stats at base and doesn't have that much scalability outside of being okay for C.
But you can mod it to do some damage. Yes, you can.
You see, and even with a very high modding investment, the power is just lackluster. It really can't do much outside of a small knockdown, and even then, the power is just pretty damn slow. In order to get the most effectiveness out of Barrage, you have to tap cast twice.
I don't know what kind of anime build I would do with Hydroid, but I'm just thinking it will be so fire. Just because of the animations and that rain ability is tough. Not only would I do an anime build, I would definitely do a other video game character build. Because doing a rain from Mortal Kombat build with Hydroid, fire.
Or hold cast to charge. Now, despite the clear shortcomings of this power, it still has some use, and in fact, some may actually value it, since it does have CC, and that might be just enough for some people. As I stated at the beginning of the video, it's all dependent on what you want.
True.
Due to the nature of the game, if you find importance in having Tempest Barrage, then you can consider it a good ability. And alongside the other gameplay systems, this idea isn't that far-fetched. And this also ties into the niche aspect. If a power doesn't perform as well as others and can't do a multitude of tasks, it can be compensated by working with other gameplay systems to a lesser extent. Loki's Decoy is one that should get more attention than it already does. It's a power that offers incredible CC and has one of the highest, if not the highest, enemy aggression in the entire game, but it has minuscule HP. Thus, it ends
so it tends to not last and dies very quickly.
up dying 99% of the time before it gets its foot off on the battlefield.
That's why.
However,
One
when
shot is
utilizing
why.
other synergies within the game, pairing Decoy with Limbo's Banish subs
See, now that's fired. He's damn near invincible.
will allow Decoy to stay immune to all incoming damage for a very long duration. Now, obviously, just blowing enemies up with your Neutron is significantly more effective,
Of course.
or using standard CC like Vauban's Bastille is less of a hassle, but there is a
The ability animations, they get you every time.
use case for the banished decoy if the opportunity is presented. Now, augment mods are interesting because they are unique mods that can be equipped on Warframes to alter the way a power behaves. Sometimes an augment can be as simple as providing a secondary stat or boost, like Savage Silence. Savage Silence increases your finisher damage when silence is active, and other times they can change a fundamental mechanic of an ability like Magnetized Discharge, which lets Mag manually detonate the bubble and enemies within range are disarmed permanently. And other times an augment
You see what I mean? Even just adding mods to your ability can change your ability completely different. Like, it can make it a completely different ability. And that's the simple fact of, like, putting different augments on, putting on different mods. It's fire. It's so fire.
augment is so monumental, it becomes an auto-install, as the augmented version of power is just objectively better than the base variant. I think Gyre might be the pinnacle example of that. Augment mods can vary in stats and usage, but for the most part, these unique mods play a significant role in affecting powers. Unfortunately, a lot of augments
like that is so crazy. That's so fire.
are deemed mandatory for certain builds, as the augmented version is just so much better. And a lot of Warframes would fall to the wayside if augments didn't exist. They have become a fundamental element within the game's sandbox, and does tie within Exhibit B. It's just, I don't want to bombard this video with a bunch of other mechanics and elements, as I'm trying to keep this straightforward. So augments will get a separate video
Appreciate him for that.
in the future. So in short, if a power does seem like it's lacking all around, an augment is an easy way to patch it up if the new secondary effect or mechanic is
Agreed.
good. Now at the end of the day, this is just one approach to the broader discussion. Warframe abilities are so diverse and unique that there really isn't an exact way to pinpoint what is good.
True. And that's the point that I was trying to make at the start of the video, is because each ability is so diverse and could be versatile depending on if you add an augment or even a mod to it, that it just makes Warframe, like, puts it on a whole nother level.
Are better abilities, but it's all up for you to decide. The meta is there and it exists for a reason, but the meta doesn't make up for the entirety of the game. Everyone plays the game in their own way, and that's kind of the best part about it. You don't gotta follow the rules to win. As long as you're having fun, that's really all that matters. Or, you know, just forget about everything I've said and run Gloom Pillage on everything.
Or you can play meta, yeah.
I also want to give a very special thanks to SajanCon, Floman, and Gamble for helping me out with this video, and I want to thank everyone else who gave their inputs and advice on the community posts. This video wouldn't have been possible without you guys.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Don't forget to go like that video for sure. It's the abilities of Warframe. I'm pretty sure you guys probably have. It's by Nova Umbral. I'm super late on it. But appreciate you guys for watching. The abilities of Warframe are immensely crazy. Like, they're so fire. They are, and I understand I keep saying that, but Warframe is a really good and really developed game. Like, no bullshit. Coming, especially in 2024, a year where we have games that come out where the game isn't even a full game but an early release. I feel like Warframe is just such a chill game to just be able to play, and you don't have to worry about certain things not working in the game. You don't have to worry about your visuals not looking complete. It's all there. for sure. But appreciate y'all for watching this video. I'm rambling like shit for sure. But don't forget, go subscribe to that Twitch channel at Neutron, man. I'm definitely finna be streaming way more. Definitely gonna be streaming some Warframe, some Naraka content, some Wuthering Waves content. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It's your boy Neutron. I appreciate y'all for watching this video, man. We outie.